When self-made millionaire Ethan Ward walked into that Air Force graduation ceremony, he expected champagne and handshakes, not to come face to face with the woman whose heart he shattered 19 years ago. But nothing could have prepared him for what happened next. A young pilot stepped forward to receive his wings, and Ethan felt the ground disappear beneath him, because the kid had his smile, his eyes, his entire face staring back at him. The woman he abandoned was standing there, clapping proudly, while their son, a son Ethan never knew existed, saluted a future built on her sacrifices and his absence. She'd kept the secret for nearly 2 decades, raising their boy alone while Ethan built an empire on the ashes of the only love that ever mattered. Now the cameras are flashing, the truth is unraveling, and 3 lives are about to collide in ways none of them saw coming. What happens when a man who has everything discovers he lost the only things that mattered? Subscribe and comment below if you've ever had to face a truth you weren't ready for, because this story is about to get a whole lot messier. The Georgia sun beat down on the parade grounds of the Air Force Academy. Ethan Ward adjusted his tie and stepped out of his black Mercedes. The heat hit him immediately. His suit was expensive, custom-tailored charcoal gray with silver threads that caught the light. Everything about him screamed success. Cameras flashed as he walked toward the ceremony stage. Reporters called his name. "Mr. Ward, over here!" He smiled. He'd done this 100 times. The self-made millionaire, the tech genius who started with nothing and built an empire. Today, he was here as a sponsor, putting his money where it mattered, supporting young pilots, future heroes. The ceremony grounds buzzed with energy. Families clutched programs. Children waved tiny American flags. Proud parents smoothed their best clothes and dabbed at happy tears. The stage stood tall, draped in red, white, and blue. Rows of chairs faced it, filling fast with guests. Ethan shook hands with the Academy director, posed for more photos, signed a ceremonial check that would fund scholarships. All routine, all easy. Then, the ceremony began. The cadets marched onto the field in perfect formation. Their boots hit the ground in rhythm. Their uniforms were crisp, their faces serious. One by one, they were called to receive their wings, the symbol that they'd earned their place in the sky. Ethan stood near the stage with other sponsors. Chloe, his fiancée, clung to his arm. She wore a cream dress and oversized sunglasses. Her perfume was strong and sweet. She leaned close, whispering about the after-party, about being seen, about connections they could make. He nodded but didn't really hear her. "Second Lieutenant Lucas Bennett," the name echoed through the speakers. A young man stepped forward, 19, maybe 20, tall, confident stride, dark hair and strong features. When he smiled at the crowd, Ethan's world tilted. That smile. He knew that smile. He'd seen it in the mirror for 30 years. The young man's jawline, the way he held his shoulders, even the way his eyes crinkled at the corners when he grinned. Everything was familiar. Too familiar. Ethan's throat went dry. The cadet shook hands with the colonel, accepted his wings, saluted with pride. Then he turned to face the crowd, and his eyes searched the audience until they landed on someone in the 3rd row. Ethan followed his gaze. And there she was, Naomi. His heart stopped. Actually stopped. The noise of the crowd faded into nothing. The applause became distant thunder. All he could see was her. 7 years. It had been 7 years since he'd seen Naomi Bennett. 7 years since he'd broken her heart. 7 years since he'd chosen his career, his ambition, his future, and left her crying on a doorstep. She looked different now. Older, of course. Her hair was natural, pulled back in a simple style. She wore a navy dress that was modest but beautiful. No jewelry, except small earrings. She clapped for the young man, for Lucas, with tears streaming down her face. Her smile was pure joy, pure love, pure motherhood. "Ethan," Chloe tugged his arm. "Are you okay? You look pale." He couldn't answer, couldn't move. His eyes locked on Naomi, and then, as if she felt his stare, she looked up. Their eyes met. For a moment, everything stopped. The earth, time, his heart. Her smile faded. Her hands froze mid-clap. Even from this distance, he could see her face go rigid, see the shock, the fear, the anger. Then she looked away, deliberately. She turned back to Lucas, wiping her tears, forcing her smile back into place. But Ethan couldn't look away. The math crashed through his mind like a freight train. 19 years old. Lucas was 19. Naomi was his mother, and 19 years ago. No, it couldn't be. But Lucas's face, that smile, those eyes, it was his face. "Ethan!" Chloe's voice cut through sharper now. People are staring. Smile! He forced himself to move, to nod, to clap when everyone else clapped. But his hands felt numb. The ceremony continued. More cadets, more wings, more proud families. Ethan saw none of it. His mind spun in circles, crashing through memories he'd buried long ago. The ceremony finally ended. Families rushed forward to embrace their cadets. Cameras clicked. Laughter and tears mixed together in the warm afternoon air. Ethan stood frozen near the stage. Chloe chatted with someone, a senator's wife maybe. He didn't care. He pretended to check his phone, but his eyes tracked Naomi through the crowd. She moved with purpose, her arm around Lucas's shoulders. The young man laughed at something she said, pulled her close, kissed her forehead. A good son, a loving son. Ethan's chest ached. Colonel Harris, the ceremony director, approached Lucas, shook his hand with genuine warmth, said something that made Lucas stand taller. Then the colonel's eyes drifted over the crowd and landed on Ethan. The older man's expression changed, just slightly, a flicker of recognition, of understanding. He knew. Somehow, Colonel Harris knew. Ethan, darling, we should head to the reception. Chloe reappeared at his side, linking her arm through his. The governor will be there, and that tech investor from California you wanted to meet. In a minute, he said, his voice rough. What's wrong with you today? She frowned, studying his face. You've been acting strange since the ceremony started. Nothing. I'm fine. But he wasn't fine. He was drowning in questions and memories and the sight of Naomi's face. Older now, stronger now, but still the face that haunted his dreams. The crowd began moving toward the reception hall, a large tent with white tables and catered food. Music played softly. Waiters carried trays of champagne. Ethan followed like a man in a trance. He lost sight of Naomi in the crowd, then found her again near the buffet table. She was loading a plate for Lucas, who joked with another cadet nearby. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Her shoulders were tense. Ethan moved closer. His feet carried him forward, even though his mind screamed at him to stop, to walk away, to leave it alone. He couldn't. He ended up at the buffet table just 2 feet away from her, close enough to smell her perfume, something light and floral, close enough to see the fine lines at the corners of her eyes, close enough to remember everything. She reached for a roll, he reached for the same basket. Their hands didn't touch, but she jerked back like he'd burned her. Naomi. His voice came out as a whisper, broken, desperate. She looked up, met his eyes. For 1 second, just one, he saw everything in her face. The hurt, the anger, the years of carrying something heavy alone. Then her expression closed, became a wall. Ethan, just his name, nothing more, cold and distant. I didn't know you'd be here, he said. Neither did I. Her voice was steady, too steady. Congratulations on your success. I've seen you in the news. Naomi, Excuse me. She picked up the plate and turned away. Just like that. She walked back to Lucas, her back straight, her steps measured. Ethan stood there holding an empty plate, his heart hammering, his mind screaming. Chloe appeared beside him again. Who was that? No one, he lied. Just someone I used to know. She's pretty. In a simple way, Chloe's tone carried judgment. Is she one of the cadets' mothers? Yes. How sad. A single mother, I assume. She has that look, that tired, worn-down look. Chloe took a sip of champagne. At least her son made something of himself. Ethan's jaw clenched. He wanted to defend Naomi, to tell Chloe she had no idea what she was talking about, that Naomi was stronger and better than Chloe could ever understand. But he said nothing, because he'd lost the right to defend Naomi 7 years ago. That night, Ethan sat in his hotel room, the penthouse suite at the Ritz-Carlton. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city lights. Everything was perfect, luxurious, empty. He'd sent Chloe home early, claiming he had work calls to make. She'd pouted but left, her heels clicking down the hallway. Now he sat in the dark, staring at his phone. He'd already done the search, already found her. Naomi Bennett, still living in Georgia, still using her maiden name. No marriage records, no social media presence beyond a basic profile with no photos. And a son, Lucas Bennett, born June 15th, 19 years ago. Ethan did the math again and again. June, 19 years ago. That was 9 months after. He closed his eyes and let the memory wash over him. He'd been 23, a trainee at this same Air Force Academy, ambitious, driven, hungry to prove himself, and he'd met Naomi at a local diner. She'd been working there part-time, studying mechanics at the community college. Her father was a retired Air Force mechanic. She loved planes the way some people loved music. They'd fallen fast, hard, completely. For 2 years, she'd been his everything, his anchor, his home. Then came the choice, an opportunity to leave the Air Force early, to join a startup in Silicon Valley, a chance to build something, to become someone. Naomi had begged him to stay, or to take her with him. She'd said they could make it work, that love was worth more than money. But he'd been young and stupid and convinced that success would make him happy, that he could always come back, that she'd wait. She hadn't waited. He'd called 2 months after leaving. Her number was disconnected. He'd driven back once, 6 months later. Her apartment was empty. Her father had passed away, the neighbors said. She'd moved. No one knew where. He'd told himself it was for the best. That clean breaks were easier, that he'd made the right choice. He'd built his empire, made his millions, became the man everyone wanted to be. And he'd been miserable. Oh, he'd dated. Plenty. Chloe had been around for 2 years now. She was beautiful, connected, perfect on paper. But when she talked, he felt nothing. When she touched him, he felt cold, because none of them were Naomi. Now, sitting in his hotel room, Ethan stared at the photo he'd found online, an old Air Force archive. Naomi visiting him during training. She was 21 in the photo, laughing, her hand in his. Happy. The date stamp. September 19 years ago, 3 months before he left her. Lucas was born in June, 9 months later. The realization hit him like a physical blow. Lucas was his son. He knew it in his bones, in his blood, in the way the boy smiled and stood and looked at the world. Naomi had been pregnant, and he'd left, and she'd never told him. Ethan dropped his head into his hands and tried to breathe. Across town, in a small house with a neat yard, Naomi sat in her kitchen. The lights were off except for a single lamp. Lucas was in his room, probably texting his friends, riding high on his big day. She should be celebrating, should be happy. Her son, her beautiful, brilliant son, had earned his wings. He was going to fly, going to be somebody. She'd done it, raised him alone, worked double shifts, skipped meals, sacrificed everything. And it had been worth it, until today. Until Ethan Ward walked back into her life looking like a movie star and staring at her son like he'd seen a ghost. She'd known this day might come. Deep down, she'd always known. Lucas looked too much like his father. People had commented on it before. He must look like his dad, they'd say cheerfully, and she'd smile and change the subject. But she'd never expected it to happen like this. At Lucas's proudest moment. With Ethan right there, close enough to touch, she'd seen the recognition in his eyes, seen the shock, the confusion he knew, or at least he suspected. Naomi pulled an old shoebox from the back of her closet. Inside were photos she never looked at, couldn't look at. Photos of her and Ethan when they were young and in love and stupid enough to believe it would last forever. There, that one. Ethan in his training uniform, grinning at the camera. He looked so much like Lucas it made her chest hurt. She'd found out she was pregnant 3 weeks after he left. 3 weeks of calling a disconnected number and crying herself to sleep. 3 weeks of knowing he'd chosen his dreams over her. She could have found him, could have tracked him down, told him about the baby, but she'd been angry, hurt, and terrified. What if he didn't care? What if he threw money at her and walked away? What if he tried to take her baby? So she'd kept the secret, moved away, started over, raised Lucas alone, and she'd done a damn good job. Lucas was kind, smart, respectful. He knew his mother loved him more than life itself. He didn't need a father who'd abandoned them before he was even born. "Mom?" Lucas appeared in the kitchen doorway, making her jump. "You okay?" She quickly shoved the photos back in the box. "Yeah, baby. Just thinking about today. I'm so proud of you." He smiled, that smile that was pure Ethan, and came to hug her. "Thanks, Mom, for everything. I know it wasn't easy." Her eyes burned with tears. "You were always worth it." "That guy today," Lucas said casually, pulling back. "That sponsor, Ethan Ward. He seemed, I don't know, intense. Did you know him?" Naomi's blood ran cold. "Why do you ask?" "He was staring at you during the reception, like, really staring. It was kind of weird. We knew each other a long time ago. It's nothing." "Was he your boyfriend or something?" Lucas laughed. "That would be crazy. He's like super rich now." "It was nothing," she repeated firmly. "Ancient history, don't worry about it." But Lucas's eyes, Ethan's eyes, studied her with curiosity. "If you say so." After he went back to his room, Naomi whispered to the empty kitchen, You'll never know, my love, you'll never know. But even as she said it, she knew it was a lie. The truth was already unraveling. The next morning, Ethan woke early. He hadn't slept, couldn't sleep. His mind raced through scenarios, possibilities, plans. He needed to see her again, to talk to her, to know the truth. By 8 a.m., he was dressed and in his car. He'd made some calls, found out where Lucas trained, the Air Force hangar on the north side of the base. He drove there under the pretense of finalizing his sponsorship donation, called ahead to let them know he was coming. They were thrilled. A millionaire taking personal interest? Of course they'd accommodate him. The hangar was massive. Jets gleamed under fluorescent lights. The smell of fuel and metal filled the air. Young pilots walked around in flight suits, checking equipment, talking in technical jargon. And there was Naomi. She wore work clothes, jeans, and a simple blouse. Her hair was pulled back. She carried a clipboard and talked with a mechanic, pointing at something on a jet engine. She worked here. Of course she did. She'd always loved planes. Ethan's heart clenched. A young officer approached him. "Mr. Ward, welcome back. Would you like a tour?" "Actually," Ethan said, his eyes still on Naomi, "I'd like to speak with Ms. Bennett. Is she available?" The officer glanced over. "Naomi?" "Sure, I'll grab her." Before Ethan could stop him, the officer called out, "Naomi, you've got a visitor." She looked up, saw Ethan. Her face went hard. She said something to the mechanic and walked over slowly. Each step looked like it cost her something. "Mr. Ward." Her voice was professional, cold. "How can I help you?" The officer excused himself, leaving them alone near a parked jet. "Naomi," Ethan said quietly, "we need to talk." "No, we don't." "Is Lucas your son?" She flinched, just slightly, but he saw it. "You know he is." "Is he—" He couldn't say it, couldn't force the words out. "Is he what?" She crossed her arms. Her eyes blazed. "Say what you came to say, Ethan. Is he mine?" The words hung in the air between them. Heavy, impossible, true. Naomi's jaw clenched. "You have no right to ask me that. That's not an answer. It's the only answer you're getting." She turned to walk away. "Naomi, please." He grabbed her arm. Not hard, just enough to stop her. She yanked free. "Don't touch me. I need to know." "Why?" Her voice cracked. "Why do you need to know? So you can swoop in and play hero? So you can ease your guilt? So you can ruin his life with your money and your fame and your perfect new world? I would never." "You already did." The words exploded out of her. "You left. You chose. And I moved on. Lucas has a good life, a happy life. You don't get to—" "Ms. Bennett?" Colonel Harris's voice cut through. He walked toward them with authority. "Is everything all right?" Naomi took a breath, straightened her shoulders. "Everything's fine, Colonel. Mr. Ward was just leaving." The colonel looked between them. His expression was knowing, sympathetic, but firm. "Mr. Ward, perhaps this isn't the best place for a reunion. The pilots are training. We need minimal distractions." It was a polite dismissal, a clear order. Ethan nodded stiffly. "Of course, my apologies." He looked at Naomi one more time. She stared back, her eyes wet but defiant. Then he turned and walked away. But this wasn't over. Not even close. That afternoon, Chloe called. Her voice was sharp. "Where were you this morning? We had a meeting with the wedding planner. I'm sorry, I had to finalize some sponsorship details. Details that took 4 hours. Chloe, You're being weird, Ethan. Ever since that ceremony yesterday, what's going on?" He rubbed his eyes. Exhaustion pulled at him. "Nothing. Just work stress." "Well, handle it. The wedding is in 3 months. I need you present." She hung up without saying goodbye. Ethan stared at his phone. He was engaged to a woman he didn't love. He'd built a life that felt empty. And somewhere in Georgia, his son, was living without knowing who his father was. He'd spent 7 years running from his past, building walls, chasing success. And in one day, it had all come crashing down. He opened his laptop, typed Naomi's name into a search engine, found her address, her work history, her life laid out in digital footprints. She'd struggled. That much was clear. Single mother, low-paying jobs at first, night classes, slowly working her way up to a decent position at the Air Force as a civilian mechanic. She'd done it all alone, because of him. Ethan closed the laptop and made a decision. He called his assistant. "I need a complete background check, Naomi Bennett. I want to know everything." It was wrong. He knew it was wrong, but he couldn't stop, couldn't walk away, not this time. Naomi drove home that evening feeling like she'd been hit by a truck. Her hands shook on the steering wheel. Her mind replayed the conversation with Ethan over and over. Is he mine? She'd wanted to scream, to cry, to tell him yes, and it was his fault he didn't know, his fault for leaving, his fault for choosing money and success over her, but she'd held it together, barely. She pulled into her driveway. Mrs. Green, her neighbor, waved from her porch. The older woman was in her 60s, warm and wise, and one of Naomi's only friends. "Come have some tea, child," Mrs. Green called. "You look like you need it." Naomi hesitated, then nodded. Lucas wouldn't be home for another hour. Mrs. Green's house smelled like cinnamon and old books. They sat in the kitchen with mismatched cups of chamomile tea. "You going to tell me what's wrong?" Mrs. Green asked gently. Naomi's resolve crumbled. The whole story poured out. Ethan, Lucas, the ceremony, the confrontation. Mrs. Green listened without interrupting. When Naomi finished, the older woman patted her hand. "Secrets age poorly, child. I was protecting Lucas. Were you? Or were you protecting yourself?" The question hit like a slap. "That's not fair." "Maybe not, but it's true." Mrs. Green's eyes were kind. "That boy has a right to know where he comes from, and that man, no matter what he did, has a right to know his child. He left me. Yes, he did. And that was wrong. But two wrongs don't make a right. You know that." Naomi's eyes filled with tears. "What if he takes Lucas away from me? A mother's love doesn't disappear because a father shows up. Lucas knows who raised him, who sacrificed for him. That won't change. I'm scared." "I know, baby. I know." Mrs. Green squeezed her hand. "But fear is a poor excuse for dishonesty, especially with someone you love." When Naomi got home, she sat in her car for a long time, staring at her house, thinking about Lucas inside, probably doing homework or playing video games. Happy, safe, hers. She thought about the look on Ethan's face when he'd asked if Lucas was his son, the desperation, the hope, and she thought about Mrs. Green's words, "Secrets age poorly." That night, Lucas came into the kitchen while she was making dinner. "Hey, Mom, guess what?" "What, baby?" "I got invited to some fancy pilot dinner tomorrow night. Mr. Ward's company is hosting it. Colonel Harris said I should go." "That it's good for networking." Naomi's knife clattered against the cutting board. "Ethan Ward's dinner. Yeah, cool, right? Can I go?" She wanted to say no, to keep him away from Ethan, to protect him, but Lucas's eyes were bright with excitement. This was part of his dream, his future. She forced a smile. "Of course you can go." "Awesome!" He kissed her cheek and bounded away. Naomi stood alone in the kitchen, her heart sinking. Ethan wasn't going away. He was going to be in Lucas's life now, whether she liked it or not. The question was, how much damage would the truth do when it finally came out? The next evening, Lucas dressed in his formal uniform. He looked so handsome, so grown up. Naomi helped him with his tie, her hands shaking slightly. "You okay, Mom?" he asked. "Just proud of you. That's all." The dinner was at an upscale restaurant downtown. Lucas drove himself. Naomi stayed home, pacing her living room, unable to sit still. At the restaurant, Ethan greeted each young pilot personally. When Lucas walked in, Ethan's breath caught. Up close, the resemblance was even more striking. This was his son, his boy. "Lucas," Ethan said warmly, extending his hand. "I'm glad you could make it." "Thank you for inviting me, sir." Lucas shook his hand firmly. "This is amazing." They talked over dinner. Ethan asked about Lucas's training, his goals, his interests. Lucas was articulate and passionate. He talked about his mother's sacrifices, how she'd worked herself to the bone to give him opportunities. "She's incredible," Lucas said with genuine love. "I don't know how she did it alone, but she did. I owe her everything." Ethan's chest tightened. "She sounds like an amazing woman." "She is." Lucas paused. "Actually, I think you knew her. She mentioned you were old friends." "We were, a long time ago." "What was she like back then?" "Beautiful, smart, the love of my life." "She was epic special," Ethan said carefully. "I'm glad she's doing well." They talked more, about flying, about dreams, about the fear and thrill of chasing something bigger than yourself. "Sometimes," Ethan said quietly, "the sky is the only place you can see clearly." Lucas laughed. "That's funny. My mom says something like that." Ethan's heart ached. The dinner ended around 9. Pilots began leaving. Lucas thanked Ethan again. "Mr. Ward, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Do you ever regret it? The choices you made to get where you are?" The question was innocent, curious, but it cut Ethan to the bone. "Every day," he whispered. "Every single day." Lucas seemed surprised by the honesty. He nodded slowly. "Thanks for dinner, sir." As Lucas walked away, Ethan watched him go, watched his son, disappear into the night, and he made a decision. He was going to find a way back into their lives, into Naomi's life, into Lucas's life. He didn't know how yet. Didn't know if Naomi would ever forgive him, but he had to try, because walking away again wasn't an option. Not this time, not ever again. Naomi was waiting on the porch when Lucas got home. She tried to act casual. "How was it?" "It was great. Mr. Ward is really cool. We talked a lot." Her stomach churned. "About what?" "Flying, life, regret." Lucas sat beside her. He seemed sad, I guess. Like successful, but sad. "Some people have everything and feel empty," Naomi said quietly. "He asked about you." Her heart stopped. "What did he say?" "Just wanted to know if you were doing well. I told him you were amazing." "Which you are." She couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. Lucas stood and stretched. "I'm beat." "Night, Mom." "Night, baby." As he went inside, Naomi stayed on the porch. The night air was cool, the stars were bright. Somewhere across town, Ethan was probably in his hotel room, thinking about today, about Lucas, about her. And despite everything, despite the hurt and the anger and the years of raising their son alone, a tiny part of her wondered what would happen next, wondered if, maybe, some broken things could be fixed, or if some mistakes were too big to forgive. Only time would tell. And time, she'd learned, had a way of revealing truth, no matter how deep you buried it. The morning sun streamed through Ethan's hotel window. He sat at his laptop, coffee growing cold beside him. He'd been searching for hours. Air Force archives, old photos, anything to confirm what he already knew in his heart. Then he found it, a photo from 19 years ago, posted on an old Air Force memorial website, someone's collection of training day photos. There, in the background, Naomi. She wore jeans and a simple t-shirt, her hair longer then. She was visiting him during training. They stood near a hangar, his arm around her shoulders. Her hand rested on her stomach. Her stomach. Ethan zoomed in. The photo was grainy but clear enough. Was she showing just slightly? Or was he seeing things he wanted to see? The date stamp, September 19th, 19 years ago. Lucas was born the following June. The math was simple, brutal, final. He saved the photo, stared at it until his eyes burned. His phone rang. "Chloe, I'm coming to Georgia," she announced. No hello, no warmth. "This wedding isn't going to plan itself, and you're clearly distracted." "Chloe, that's not necessary. I've already booked my flight. I land at 2. She paused. "And Ethan, whatever is going on with you, fix it. I won't be embarrassed." She hung up. Ethan dropped his head into his hands. His life was unraveling. His perfectly controlled, carefully built life was falling apart, and part of him didn't care. Naomi stood in her kitchen, packing Lucas's lunch out of habit, even though he was 19, and perfectly capable of doing it himself. Some routines were hard to break. The doorbell rang. She wasn't expecting anyone. Maybe Mrs. Green with more tea and wisdom. She opened the door. Chloe Miles stood on her porch. Designer sunglasses, perfect hair, a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Miss Bennett, I'm Chloe Miles, Ethan Ward's fiancée." Naomi's blood ran cold. "What do you want?" "May I come in?" "Just for a moment." Chloe's voice was sugar-sweet, poisonous. "I wanted to thank you personally for attending the ceremony. Ethan's sponsorship means so much to these young pilots." Every instinct screamed at Naomi to slam the door, but Lucas was home. Neighbors could see, so she stepped aside. "Make it quick." Chloe entered, her eyes scanning the modest living room, the worn furniture, the simple decorations. Her expression said everything without words. "Charming," Chloe said. "Very humble." "I'm busy. What do you want?" Chloe removed her sunglasses. Her eyes were cold. "I want to understand why my fiancé has been acting strange ever since he saw you at that ceremony." "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't you?" Chloe stepped closer. "He's distracted, distant, and yesterday he spent 4 hours finalizing sponsorship details. 4 hours, Miss Bennett, for what should have been a simple phone call." Naomi kept her face neutral. "That has nothing to do with me, doesn't it?" Chloe's smile sharpened. "He told me you were old friends. Just how close were you?" "That's none of your business. Everything about Ethan is my business. We're getting married in 3 months." Chloe's voice dropped. "So let me be clear. Whatever history you think you have with him, it's over. He's moved on. He's successful, important, And you, she gestured around the room, you're a mechanic living in a tiny house with a son to raise. Stay in your lane. The words hit like slaps, but Naomi had survived worse. Much worse. She walked to the door and opened it. Get out. Excuse me? I said get out. Now. Chloe's composure cracked. You can't speak to me like, this is my house, my home, and you have no right to come here and insult me. Naomi's voice was steel. Whatever issues you have with Ethan, take them up with him. Don't you ever come to my door again. For a moment, Chloe just stared. Then she grabbed her purse and stormed out, her heels clicking angrily on the porch steps. Naomi slammed the door, locked it, then leaned against it, shaking. Lucas appeared from the hallway. Who was that? Nobody important. She seemed mad. Some people are always mad. Naomi forced a smile. Don't worry about it. But worry was exactly what she felt. Chloe's visit wasn't random. It was a warning, a threat. And Naomi knew with sinking certainty that things were about to get much worse. 3 days later, Ethan showed up at the training hangar again, this time during an open practice session. Families were allowed to watch. He had every right to be there. Naomi saw him the moment he entered, tall, confident, impossible to miss. She turned away, focusing on the jet engine she was inspecting. Maybe he wouldn't approach. Maybe he'd just watch Lucas fly and leave, but she knew better. Lucas was in the simulator room with other pilots. Ethan walked past Naomi without speaking, but she felt his presence like electricity in the air. Minutes later, she heard Lucas laugh, that bright, genuine laugh that made her heart sing. She looked over. Ethan stood with Lucas near the simulator. They were talking, joking. Lucas demonstrated something with his hands, probably a flight maneuver. Ethan nodded, asking questions, genuinely interested. They looked so alike. Same height, same build, same way of tilting their heads when they listened. How had she ever thought she could keep this secret? Colonel Harris appeared beside her. You should tell him. Naomi jumped. Tell who what? Don't play games with me, Naomi. I've known you since you were a girl visiting your father at work. The colonel's voice was gentle but firm. That boy deserves to know his father, and that man deserves to know his son. He left me. Yes, he did. And that was wrong. But keeping Lucas from him, that's wrong too. I'm protecting Lucas. From what? From a father who clearly cares. Look at them, Naomi. She looked. Ethan was showing Lucas something on his phone. A photo, maybe. Lucas grinned and pointed at the screen. 2 people connecting. Naturally, easily. What if he takes Lucas away from me? Her voice cracked. That boy loves you more than life itself. Nothing will change that. Colonel Harris squeezed her shoulder. But secrets have a way of coming out, and when they do, they explode. Better to control the truth than let it control you. He walked away, leaving Naomi alone with her fear. The argument happened an hour later. Most of the families had left. Lucas was debriefing with instructors. The hangar was quiet except for the hum of machinery. Ethan found Naomi outside near the parking lot. She was unlocking her car when he called her name. Naomi, wait. I have nothing to say to you. Well, I have plenty to say to you. His voice was rough, angry. You can't keep avoiding me. Watch me. She opened her car door. He grabbed it, holding it shut. Is Lucas my son? Let go of my car. Answer the question. You don't deserve an answer. She whirled on him. You left. You chose your precious career over me, over us. You don't get to show up 19 years later and demand anything. I didn't know, because I didn't tell you. The admission hung between them. Raw, painful, true. Ethan's face went pale. You knew you were pregnant, and you didn't tell me. What was I supposed to do? Tears burned her eyes. Chase after a man who made it clear I wasn't enough. Beg you to come back. Ask you to give up your dreams for a baby you didn't want. You don't know what I would have wanted. You didn't give me a choice. You made your choice when you left. They were shouting now, months, years of buried pain erupting. I had a right to know. Ethan's voice broke. He's my son, and you kept him from me. I kept him safe. Naomi's tears spilled over. I gave him a stable life, a loving home. I protected him from a father who would have resented him, who would have seen him as a burden, an obligation. You don't know that. You don't know what I would have done. Don't I? She laughed bitterly. You threw me away like garbage the second something better came along. What makes you think you would have treated him any differently? The words hit him like a physical blow. That's not fair, he whispered. None of this is fair. Excuse me. Colonel Harris's voice cut through. He stood a few feet away, his expression stern. This is neither the time nor the place. Mr. Ward, I need you to leave. Now, Ethan looked at Naomi. Her face was wet with tears. Her hands shook. "This isn't over," he said quietly. "Yes, it is." She got in her car and drove away before he could say another word. Colonel Harris stepped closer. "Son, I understand you're hurting, but ambushing her in parking lots won't solve anything. She lied to me for 19 years, and you broke her heart. You both have wounds, but that boy in there," he pointed toward the hangar, "he doesn't deserve to be caught in your crossfire. If you want to be part of his life, you need to think about what's best for him, not what makes you feel better." Ethan drove back to his hotel in silence. His hands gripped the steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned white. That night he couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't think about anything except Lucas, his son, the boy who looked like him, smiled like him, probably dreamed like him. 19 years, he'd missed 19 years. First steps, first words, first day of school, first heartbreak, all of it, gone. And it was Naomi's fault. No, it was his fault too. If he hadn't left, if he'd stayed, if he'd loved her the way she deserved. He turned on his laptop, started writing an email to Naomi, deleted it, started again, deleted again. What could he possibly say? Lucas noticed something was wrong with his mother. She was quieter than usual, distracted. She burned dinner, which she never did, and twice he caught her just staring out the window with tears in her eyes. "Mom, what's going on?" "Nothing, baby. Just tired." "Is it about Mr. Ward?" She flinched. "Why would you think that?" "Because every time someone mentions him, you look like you've been punched." Lucas sat beside her on the couch. "What happened between you two?" "It's complicated. I'm 19, Mom, not a kid. Talk to me." She looked at her son, her beautiful, brilliant son, the best thing she'd ever done. How could she tell him? How could she break his world? "We dated. A long time ago. Before you were born. It ended badly." "How badly?" "He left. Chose his career. Broke my heart." She tried to smile. "But I survived. And I had you. And that was enough." Lucas frowned. "He seems to care about you." "I can see it in how he looks at you. People change, Lucas. Who we were doesn't matter anymore." But even as she said it, she knew it was a lie, because Ethan's eyes still made her heart race. His voice still made her knees weak. And seeing him with Lucas, seeing them together, so similar, so connected, hurt in ways she couldn't describe. She'd loved Ethan once, loved him completely, and maybe, God help her, she still did. 2 days later, Lucas got another invitation, this time a private dinner. Just him and Mr. Ward. "He wants to talk about career opportunities," Lucas said excitedly. "Maybe a scholarship program or something. Can I go?" Naomi wanted to say no, wanted to lock Lucas in the house and keep him safe from the truth that was coming. But she couldn't control this anymore. "Of course you can go." That evening, Ethan picked Lucas up personally. Naomi watched from the window as her son climbed into the Mercedes, watched Ethan smile at something Lucas said. They looked like a picture, father and son. The dinner was at a quiet restaurant downtown, private booth, no cameras. Ethan ordered food neither of them really ate. They talked about flying, about Lucas's goals after training, about what he wanted from life. "I want to make my mom proud," Lucas said. "She gave up everything for me. Her dreams, her life, everything. She must love you very much." "She does. We're a team, always have been." Lucas paused. "I wish she had someone, you know, someone to take care of her for once. She deserves that." Ethan's throat tightened. "Yes, she does." They talked more, about regrets, about choices, about the cost of ambition. "Sometimes," Ethan said quietly, "the sky is the only place you can see clearly, where everything else falls away and you just exist." Lucas's eyes widened. "My mom says almost the exact same thing." "Does she?" "Yeah. When I was little, we'd go to the airfield and watch planes take off. She'd tell me that flying was freedom, that once you're up there, nothing else matters. Just you and the sky." Ethan closed his eyes. He remembered those conversations. He'd told Naomi the same thing during training. She'd understood him in ways no one else ever had. "Your mother is a wise woman. She's the best." Lucas smiled. "I know she works hard. I know we don't have much, but I wouldn't trade her for anything. She's my hero." The words broke something in Ethan. This boy, his son, loved Naomi completely, unconditionally, the way Ethan should have loved her all those years ago. "Lucas, can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Did your mother ever talk about your father?" Lucas's expression shuttered slightly. "Not really. I asked when I was younger. She'd just say he wasn't around, that it was complicated. Eventually, I stopped asking. Did you ever want to know him? Sometimes. But my mom was enough. She was both parents. I never felt like I was missing anything because she loved me enough for two people. Lucas met Ethan's eyes. Why do you ask? Just curious. About what makes a good father, I guess. I think a good father is someone who shows up, who's there, not just physically but emotionally. Someone who puts their kid first. Lucas shrugged. My mom did that. Maybe that's why I never missed having a dad. She filled both roles. Ethan drove Lucas home in silence. When they pulled up to the modest house, Lucas turned to him. Thanks for dinner, Mr. Ward, and for everything you're doing for us pilots. It means a lot. Call me Ethan. Lucas smiled, that smile, and climbed out. Ethan watched him walk to the door, watched Naomi open it before Lucas could knock like she'd been waiting, watched her hug their son tightly. She looked over Lucas's shoulder. Her eyes found Ethan's through the windshield. For a moment they just stared at each other. Then she pulled Lucas inside and closed the door. Ethan sat in his car for a long time, thinking, aching, knowing he had to do something but not knowing what. His phone buzzed. Chloe, where are you? We're supposed to go over seating charts. I'm working. At 9 p.m. Ethan, you're being impossible. Chloe, I need to tell you something. What? He couldn't do it over the phone. I'll be home tomorrow. We'll talk then. You're scaring me. I'm sorry. He hung up, looked back at Naomi's house. One light glowed in an upstairs window. Lucas's room, probably. 19 years of life, 19 years of memories, all without him, and it was eating him alive. Across town, Colonel Harris sat in his office reviewing training reports. A knock interrupted him. Naomi entered, her face tired. Do you have a minute? For you? Always. He gestured to a chair. What's on your mind? I don't know what to do. About Ethan. About everything. She twisted her hands. He's not going away. He's going to keep pushing until Lucas finds out the truth, and when that happens, Lucas will be hurt, angry, confused. He'll hate me. No, he won't. The colonel leaned forward. He might be upset, but he loves you. That won't change. But his whole life is a lie. His life is what you built for him, with love and sacrifice. That's not a lie. That's a gift. He paused. But he deserves to know where he comes from. And you deserve to stop carrying this burden alone. What if Ethan tries to take him from me? That man is many things, but he's not cruel. I've watched him with Lucas. He's not trying to replace you. He's trying to find a place in a life he didn't know existed. He doesn't deserve a place. Maybe not. But Lucas deserves a father, even if that father is late to the party. Naomi wiped her eyes. I'm so tired, Colonel. I'm tired of being strong, tired of pretending everything is fine, tired of looking at my son and seeing Ethan's face. Then stop pretending, tell the truth. Let the chips fall where they may. I'm scared. I know. But fear is just love trying to protect itself. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let go and see what happens. Naomi left his office feeling more confused than ever. That night, she lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Down the hall, Lucas slept peacefully. Her baby, her son, her whole world. Tomorrow, everything might change. Or maybe nothing would change. Maybe Ethan would get bored and leave again, move on to the next thing, the next success. But something told her that wasn't going to happen. This time, Ethan Ward was here to stay, and that terrified her more than anything. The next morning, Lucas went to training early. Naomi had the day off. She tried to clean the house, tried to keep busy, tried not to think about Ethan. She failed. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Ms. Bennett? This is Veronica Chase from Georgia Today magazine. I'm calling about your connection to Ethan Ward. Naomi's blood froze. What? We've received some interesting photos. You and Mr. Ward at the Air Force hangar, having what looks like a very intense conversation. Our readers would love to know more about your relationship. I have no comment. Is it true you dated when he was in training? Is it true your son is... Naomi hung up. Her hands shook. Photos. Someone had taken photos. Someone was digging into her life. Her phone rang again. Different number. Another reporter. Then another. By noon, 3 news vans sat on her street. Naomi called Mrs. Green in a panic. The older woman came over immediately. Child, what's happening? I don't know. Reporters keep calling. They're asking about Ethan, about Lucas. Someone took photos of us arguing. Mrs. Green peeked through the curtains. Those vultures. Don't talk to them. Don't answer the door. But the damage was done. By evening, the story was everywhere. Online gossip sites, social media, local news. Millionaire Ethan Ward's secret connection to Air Force family. Who is the mystery woman in Ethan Ward's past? Is tech mogul's fortune built on broken hearts? Lucas came home to reporters shouting questions at him. Lucas, is Ethan Ward your father? How does your mother know Mr. Ward? Were they in love? He pushed through them, confused and angry, burst into the house. Mom, what's going on? Naomi sat on the couch, her face in her hands. I'm so sorry, baby. Sorry for what? Why are there reporters outside? What are they talking about? Lucas, is he my father? The question exploded out. Is Ethan Ward my father? Naomi looked up. Her son's face, Ethan's face, stared at her with betrayal and confusion. I can explain. Is he? The truth sat between them, heavy, unavoidable. I don't know, she whispered. It was a lie. She knew. But saying it out loud would make it real. You don't know. How can you not know? It's complicated. Everything with you is complicated. Lucas paced, running his hands through his hair, just like Ethan did when he was stressed. I deserve to know who my father is. You're right. You do. But what? You were protecting me. From what? From being hurt. Well, guess what? I'm hurt now. I'm hurt that my whole life might be a lie. I'm hurt that strangers on the street know more about my father than I do. Lucas, please. No. He backed away. I need space. I need to think. He stormed to his room. The door slammed. Naomi sat in the silence, tears streaming down her face. Everything was falling apart, and she had no idea how to stop it. Ethan saw the news stories, the photos, the speculation. He knew immediately who was responsible. Chloe. He drove to her apartment, didn't bother knocking, used his key. She sat on her couch, scrolling through her phone, a satisfied smile on her face. Ethan, you're back. Did you see the news? That woman is everywhere now. How embarrassing for her. You did this. Did what? She blinked innocently. You hired someone to follow me, to take photos. You leaked this to the press. I have no idea what you're talking about. Don't lie to me, Chloe. Her mask dropped. Fine, yes, I did it. Someone had to protect you from making a fool of yourself over some poor mechanic and her charity case son. Ethan's hands clenched. Her name is Naomi, and that's my son. Chloe's eyes widened. Your what? Lucas is my son. Mine. And you just destroyed any chance I had of being part of his life. His voice shook with rage. You just exposed a 19-year-old kid to the worst parts of media scrutiny because of your jealousy and your ego. I was protecting you. No, you were protecting yourself, your image, your perfect wedding. He pulled the engagement ring from his pocket. It's over, Chloe, we're done. You can't be serious. I've never been more serious in my life. He set the ring on her coffee table. I should have ended this months ago, years ago. I was with you for all the wrong reasons. And I'm sorry for that. But this, what you did to Naomi and Lucas, that's unforgivable. You're choosing them over me. I'm choosing to finally do the right thing, even if I'm 19 years too late. He walked out. Chloe's screams followed him, but he didn't care. He drove to Naomi's house. Reporters still crowded the street. Cameras flashed when they recognized him. He ignored them all. He knocked on her door. Naomi, it's Ethan. Please let me in. The door opened a crack. Mrs. Green stood there. That girl doesn't want to see you. I know, but I need to see her. I need to apologize. I need to fix this. Some things can't be fixed, young man. Please, 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. Mrs. Green studied him, then sighed. 5 minutes. But if she tells you to leave, you leave. He stepped inside. The house was dark, quiet. Naomi sat on the couch, looking small and broken. Naomi, get out. Please, let me explain. Explain what? She looked up. Her eyes were red and swollen. That your fiancé destroyed my privacy? My son's privacy? That we're now a headline because of you? I ended it with Chloe. It's over. Good for you. Doesn't change what she did. I know. And I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. Your apologies don't fix anything. She stood, shaking. You said you'd be careful. You said you just wanted to know the truth. But all you've done is repeat history. You left me broken 19 years ago and now you're breaking Lucas. Where is he? In his room, refusing to talk to me. Because of you. Because you couldn't just leave well enough alone. I had a right to know. And he had a right to a peaceful life. But now? Now everyone knows. Everyone is asking questions. And I have to look my son in the eye and tell him that his entire existence started because I wasn't enough for you. The words hung in the air. Raw. Devastating. That's not true, Ethan whispered. You were everything to me. Then why did you leave? Because I was young and stupid and scared, because I thought success would make me happy, because I didn't know. His voice broke. I didn't know what I had until it was gone. Well, it's gone now. Lucas won't talk to me, won't even look at me. You wanted the truth out? Congratulations. You ruined both our lives to get it. Naomi, get out, Ethan. Just get out. He wanted to argue, to fight, to beg, but the look on her face stopped him. He'd hurt her enough. He walked to the door, paused. For what it's worth, I never stopped thinking about you. Not once in 19 years. That's not worth anything, she said quietly. Because thinking about someone and actually showing up are two very different things. He left, drove back to his hotel, sat in the dark and realized he'd done exactly what Colonel Harris warned him not to do. He'd made everything about his pain, his loss, his need to fix his mistakes, and in doing so he'd hurt the two people he cared about most, Lucas, his son who didn't know him and now hated him, and Naomi, the woman he'd loved and lost and broken all over again. Ethan Ward, the man who had everything, had never felt more empty in his entire life. The next 3 days were hell. Naomi stopped answering her phone, stopped checking social media, stopped watching the news, but she couldn't stop the reporters. They camped outside her house like hungry wolves. Mrs. Green finally convinced her to pack a bag. You and Lucas come stay with me, at least until this dies down. So they moved in temporarily. Lucas barely spoke. He ate meals in silence, avoided eye contact. When Naomi tried to talk to him, he'd leave the room. Her son, her baby, was slipping away from her, and she didn't know how to reach him. Across town, Ethan's world was also falling apart. His PR team called emergency meetings. You need to deny this. Say the photos are misleading. Say you barely know the woman. No. Ethan, your company's stock dropped 3% today. Investors are nervous. Your image. I don't care about my image. His team stared at him like he'd lost his mind. That boy is my son, Ethan said firmly. I'm not denying him. I'm not denying Naomi. I've spent 19 years running from the truth. I'm done running. But the wedding. Chloe is giving interviews. She's painting herself as the victim. Says you abandoned her for an old flame. Ethan rubbed his face. Let her talk. I'm not responding. You have to respond. She's destroying your reputation. My reputation was built on a lie, on pretending I had everything together when I was empty inside. He stood. I'm done pretending. He walked out of the meeting. Let them figure it out. His phone buzzed constantly. Reporters, business partners, friends, or people he'd thought were friends, asking for the real story. He ignored them all, except when Colonel Harris called. We need to talk, the colonel said. Meet me at the airfield. 1 hour. Ethan arrived to find the airfield quiet. Most training had wrapped up for the day. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. Colonel Harris stood near a hangar, arms crossed. You wanted to see me? Ethan said. I wanted to tell you you're an idiot. Ethan almost smiled. That's fair. That woman is falling apart. That boy won't speak to anyone. And you're sitting in your hotel feeling sorry for yourself. The colonel's voice was hard. Is that what you came here for? To blow up their lives and walk away? I didn't want this to happen, but it did. And now you have a choice. You can keep wallowing in guilt, or you can actually do something useful. Like what? Naomi won't see me. Lucas hates me. I've destroyed everything. So fix it. How? Stop hiding behind money, Colonel Harris said firmly. Stop sending apologies through texts and phone calls. Show that boy and that woman who you really are. Not the millionaire, not the sponsor. Just the man who made mistakes and wants to make them right. I don't know if I can. You can. The question is, will you? The colonel stepped closer. That boy is thinking about quitting the Air Force. Did you know that? Ethan's blood ran cold. What? He came to me yesterday. Said none of it feels real anymore. Said he doesn't know who he is or where he belongs. You did that. Your secrets, yours and Naomi's, made that boy question everything he's worked for. God, Ethan felt sick. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to stop making this about your pain, your guilt, your need for redemption. You're going to think about what Lucas needs, what Naomi needs, and you're going to put them first, even if it costs you everything, even if they never forgive you. You're going to show up, understand? Ethan nodded slowly. Yes, sir. Good. Now get out of here. And don't come back until you have a real plan. Not money, not grand gestures, just truth. Honest, painful, humble truth. That night, Ethan sat in his hotel room and wrote. Not a speech, not a press release, just words. His story, his mistakes, his regrets, everything he should have said 19 years ago. By morning, he'd made a decision. He called his PR team. Schedule a press conference. Today, if possible. To deny the rumors. No, to tell the truth. Silence on the other end. Ethan, are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. The press conference was held at noon in a hotel conference room. Cameras filled every corner. Reporters crowded in, notebooks ready. This was the story everyone wanted. Ethan walked to the podium in a simple suit. No fancy tie. No designer accessories. Just him. He looked directly at the cameras. My name is Ethan Ward. Most of you know me as a businessman, a tech entrepreneur, someone who built something from nothing. He paused. But today, I'm here to tell you about my greatest failure. The room went silent. 19 years ago, I was in love, truly deeply in love with a woman named Naomi Bennett. She was smart and kind and saw something in me I didn't see in myself. We were planning a future together. Then I got an opportunity, a chance to start a company in California. And I chose that opportunity over her. I left. I told myself it was for the best, that I'd come back, that success would make everything right. His voice cracked. I was wrong. I never came back. I built my company, made my fortune, and convinced myself I was happy. But I wasn't, because I'd left behind the one person who actually mattered. A reporter started to ask a question. Ethan held up his hand. I found out recently that Naomi had my son, a son I never knew about, Lucas Bennett. He's 19 now, a brilliant young pilot in the Air Force, and he looks exactly like me. Tears filled his eyes. I missed everything, his first steps, his first words, every birthday, every milestone, all of it, because I was too selfish and too proud to choose love over ambition. He wiped his eyes, not caring who saw. The media has been asking if Lucas is my son. The answer is yes. He is. And I'm telling you this not because I want sympathy or forgiveness. I don't deserve either. I'm telling you this because he deserves the truth. Naomi deserves the truth, and I'm done hiding from my mistakes. He looked directly at the camera. Imagined Naomi watching somewhere. Lucas watching. Naomi, if you're listening, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for leaving. I'm sorry for hurting you. I'm sorry for making you carry this burden alone for 19 years. You deserved better. You deserved everything. And I was too blind to see it. His voice broke completely. And Lucas, I know you don't know me. I know I have no right to call myself your father, but I want you to know that finding out about you was the best thing that ever happened to me. You are brilliant and kind and everything I wish I'd been at your age. Your mother raised you right. She gave you everything I couldn't, and I'm grateful to her for that. He stepped back from the microphone. That's all I have to say. I won't be taking questions. This isn't about my image or my company. This is about two people I hurt. And I needed to say this publicly because I owe them that much. Thank you. He walked out while reporters shouted questions. Cameras flashed. But he didn't stop. He'd said what he needed to say. Now all he could do was wait. Naomi watched the press conference on Mrs. Green's TV. She stood in the living room, frozen, as Ethan's words poured out. I missed everything. His first steps. His first words. You deserved better. You deserved everything. Finding out about you was the best thing that ever happened to me. By the end, she was crying. Tears streamed down her face. Her chest ached. Mrs. Green squeezed her hand. That man loves you. Always has. Love isn't enough, Naomi whispered. Maybe not, but it's a start. Lucas stood in the doorway. Neither woman had noticed him enter. His face was unreadable. Lucas, Naomi started. Is it true? His voice was quiet. Is he really my father? No more lies. No more secrets. Yes, she said. He is. Lucas's jaw clenched. Why didn't you tell me? Because I was scared. I was hurt. And I was trying to protect you. From what? From being rejected. From feeling unwanted. From... Her voice broke. From the same pain I felt when he left. That wasn't your choice to make. I know that now, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, baby. Lucas looked at the TV where news anchors were replaying clips of Ethan's confession. He really didn't know about me? No. I never told him. Why not? Because I was 21 and pregnant and heartbroken. Because he'd made it clear his career mattered more than me. Because I was terrified he'd see you as a mistake. An obligation. Naomi stepped toward him. But that was wrong. You were never a mistake. You're the best thing I ever did. And I should have given him the chance to know you. Even if I was angry. Even if I was hurt. That was his right. And it was your right to know him. Lucas was quiet for a long time. Then he said, I don't know how to feel about any of this. That's okay. You don't have to know right now. I'm angry at you for lying. I understand. But I'm also angry at him for leaving you, for not being there. That's okay too. And I'm angry at myself for not asking more questions, for just accepting that I didn't have a father. He ran his hands through his hair. Everything feels wrong now, like my whole life was built on a lie. Your life wasn't a lie, Naomi said firmly. Your life was love. My love. Mrs. Green's love. Colonel Harris's love. Every person who showed up for you, that was real. That was true. The only lie was keeping your father's identity from you. And that's on me, not on you. Lucas looked at her with Ethan's eyes. I need time to process, to figure out what I want. Take all the time you need. He walked back to his room. The door closed softly. Mrs. Green patted Naomi's shoulder. That went better than expected. He hates me. He's confused. There's a difference. The older woman smiled gently. Give him time. He'll come around. But Naomi wasn't sure. She'd seen the betrayal in his eyes, the hurt. She'd spent 19 years protecting him from pain, and now all she'd done was cause him more. 3 days later, Lucas made a decision. He walked into Colonel Harris's office. I'm ready to continue training. The colonel looked up. You sure? No. But I'm not quitting either. Flying is still my dream, even if everything else is a mess. That's mature of you. My mom taught me that running from problems doesn't solve them. Lucas sat down. I need to talk to him. To Ethan, to my... He stumbled over the word. My father. That's a good idea, but I don't know what to say. Start with the truth. Tell him how you feel, the good and the bad. He can handle it, and if he can't, then he doesn't deserve to be in your life. Lucas nodded slowly. Can you set it up? I don't have his number. I'll call him. 2 days later, Lucas's graduation ceremony arrived. Not the big public one from before. This was smaller, more intimate. Just the trainees receiving their official wings after completing final tests. Naomi dressed carefully. Navy dress again. Simple but nice. She'd lost weight from stress. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. But she was there. For Lucas. Always for Lucas. She sat in the audience. Watched as one by one the pilots received their wings. Then Lucas stepped forward. He looked so handsome in his uniform. So proud. So grown up. Her baby. Her son. Her heart. Colonel Harris pinned the wings to Lucas's chest, shook his hand, whispered something that made Lucas nod. Then Lucas turned to face the audience. His eyes scanned the crowd, stopped. Naomi followed his gaze. Ethan stood at the very back. No expensive suit today, just khakis and a button-down shirt. He looked tired, older, humbler, but he was there. He wasn't hiding, wasn't making it about himself. He was just there, supporting, witnessing, being present. Lucas stared at him for a long moment. Then he lifted his hand, gave a sharp, formal salute. The gesture was military, respectful, not intimate, not forgiving, just acknowledging. Ethan's hand trembled as he returned the salute. Tears streamed down his face. Naomi's heart cracked open. After the ceremony, families gathered outside. Lucas accepted congratulations, hugged friends, posed for photos. Naomi stayed close but not too close, giving him space. She saw Ethan approach, saw Lucas turn. The two men stood face to face, father and son, strangers and family all at once. She couldn't hear what they said, but she saw Lucas's rigid posture, saw Ethan's careful distance. They talked for maybe 5 minutes. Then Lucas nodded and walked away. Ethan didn't follow, just watched him go. Then his eyes found Naomi's. They stared at each other across the crowd. So much history between them, so much pain. She should walk away, should protect her heart, but her feet carried her forward. They met in the middle, near a bench under a tree, away from everyone else. Hi, Ethan said quietly. Hi. Silence. Then Ethan said, He's amazing. Lucas, you did an incredible job raising him. He did most of it himself. That's not true. I can see you in him. Your strength, your heart, your grace. He paused. I saw the press conference. What I said, I meant every word. I know. Can we talk? Really talk? Naomi hesitated. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to protect herself, but she was tired of running. Okay. They drove to a park, sat on a bench overlooking a lake. The sun was setting. The water reflected orange and gold. I ended things with Chloe, Ethan said, in case you were wondering. I wasn't. She's the one who leaked everything to the press. She hired someone to follow us, to take photos. I know. I'm sorry for all of it. Naomi was quiet. Then she said, I'm sorry too, for not telling you about Lucas. You had a right to know. Even if you hurt me, even if I was angry, that wasn't fair to you, or to him. You were protecting him. I was protecting myself. Mrs. Green was right. I was scared you'd reject him, or reject me again, and I couldn't handle that. Ethan turned to face her. Naomi, I need you to understand something. Leaving you was the biggest mistake of my life. Not just because of Lucas, but because I loved you. I loved you completely, and I was too young and too stupid to realize that love was worth more than any career, any amount of money, anything. But you chose those things anyway. I did, and I've regretted it every single day since. His voice cracked. You want to know the truth? I built an empire, made millions, and I was miserable. Every relationship I had after you was empty. Every success felt hollow, because none of it mattered without you. Tears burned her eyes. Don't say things like that. Why not? It's true. I loved you then. I love you now. I never stopped. Ethan, I'm not asking you to forgive me. I don't deserve forgiveness, but I needed you to know. I needed you to understand that you weren't the problem. I was. My pride, my ambition, my stupidity. You were perfect. You are perfect. And I threw that away. Naomi wiped her eyes. You really hurt me. I know. I cried for months after you left. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I thought I'd never feel whole again. I'm so sorry. Then I found out I was pregnant, and I was terrified, but also happy, because Lucas gave me a reason to keep going, to be strong, to build a life worth living. She looked at Ethan. He saved me. When you broke me, he saved me. Ethan's face crumpled. I don't know how to make this right. Maybe you can't. Maybe some things stay broken. So that's it. We just move on? Pretend this never happened? I don't know. Naomi stood, looked out at the water. I spent 19 years convincing myself I hated you, that you were a mistake, that I was better off without you. But the truth is, her voice broke, the truth is I never stopped loving you either, and that makes me angry, because you don't deserve my love. You don't deserve anything from me. Ethan stood beside her, not touching, just close. You're right, I don't. But Lucas deserves a father, even one who's 19 years late. I want to be part of his life if he'll let me. He will. Eventually. He's hurt and confused right now, but he's also curious. He wants to know you, even if he won't admit it yet. What about you? Ethan asked quietly. Do you want me in your life? Naomi closed her eyes. I don't know. I need time to figure out what I want, what I can handle. I understand. But I'm not saying no. I'm just saying not yet. Hope flickered across Ethan's face. I can wait. I'll wait as long as you need. Don't make promises you can't keep. I've spent 19 years paying for breaking promises. I'm done doing that. If you tell me to wait, I'll wait. Forever if I have to. They stood in silence, watching the sun set. Two broken people, two wounded hearts. Maybe they could heal. Maybe they couldn't. But for the first time in years, there was possibility. And sometimes, possibility was enough. Over the next 2 weeks, things slowly shifted. Lucas met with Ethan twice. Short conversations. Awkward but honest. They talked about flying, about life, about nothing important and everything important at the same time. It wasn't a father-son relationship. Not yet, maybe not ever. But it was a start. Ethan didn't push, didn't try to buy Lucas's affection, didn't make grand gestures. He just showed up, answered questions honestly, admitted his mistakes. And slowly, very slowly, Lucas began to soften. One evening, Naomi's doorbell rang. She opened it to find Ethan standing there holding a small box. What's this? She asked. Something I should have given you 19 years ago. She opened the box. Inside was an old Air Force pin, Ethan's pin from his training days. This was my past, he said quietly. Everything I was before I made the biggest mistake of my life. I want you to have it, not as a gift, not as a bribe, just as a symbol. A promise that I'm not running anymore, that I'm here. For you, for Lucas, for however long you'll let me be. Naomi held the pin. It was worn, scratched, old, beautiful. Ethan, I'm not asking you to marry me, or even to date me. I'm just asking for a chance, to prove that I'm not the same selfish kid who left you, to show you that I've learned, that I've grown, that you and Lucas are my future, if you'll have me. She looked up at him, saw the hope in his eyes, the fear, the love. all the same emotions churning inside her. "Okay," she whispered, "okay. One day at a time, no promises, no expectations, just see what happens." A smile broke across his face. Genuine, bright, the smile she'd fallen in love with 20 years ago. "One day at a time," he repeated. "I can do that." He didn't kiss her, didn't hug her, just squeezed her hand gently. Then he left, and Naomi stood on her porch holding his pin, feeling something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. The weeks that followed were strange, uncertain, like walking on new ground after an earthquake. Ethan stayed in Georgia. He sold his mansion in California, put his company in the hands of capable executives, made it clear that his priority was here now, with Lucas, with Naomi. Some people called him crazy. His business partners said he was throwing his life away, but Ethan didn't care. For the first time in years, he was making choices with his heart instead of his head. He rented a small house near the airfield. Nothing fancy, just a place to call home while he figured out what came next. He saw Lucas 3 times a week. They'd grab coffee, walk around the base, talk about whatever came to mind. Sometimes the conversations were easy. They'd discuss flight mechanics or joke about bad action movies. Other times, silence would fall between them, heavy and uncomfortable. But Ethan never pushed, never demanded. He was learning that being a father wasn't about control. It was about presence, about showing up even when things were hard. One afternoon, Lucas asked the question Ethan had been dreading. "Why did you really leave her?" They sat on a bench near the training hangar. Jets roared overhead. The sound was familiar now, comforting. Ethan took a breath. "I was 23. I'd spent my whole life trying to prove I was worth something. My parents didn't have much money. I worked 3 jobs to get through college. When I got into the Air Force, it felt like I'd finally made it, like I was somebody." Lucas listened quietly. "Then this startup offered me a position, huge salary, stock options, a chance to be part of something revolutionary, and I looked at my life, at the small apartment I shared with your mom, at the modest future we'd have on a military salary, and I panicked. You thought she wasn't enough?" "No." Ethan shook his head firmly. "I thought I wasn't enough. I thought if I didn't grab that opportunity, I'd always be nothing, that your mum would eventually realize she could do better, that I'd wake up at 40 and regret not taking the chance. So you left." "So I left. And I told myself it was the right choice, that I'd come back once I'd made something of myself, that she'd wait, that love could survive distance and time. But it couldn't. Actually, it did. That was the problem." Ethan's voice cracked. "I loved her every day I was gone. Every success felt empty because she wasn't there to share it, and when I tried to come back 6 months later, she was gone. I told myself it was for the best, that maybe we weren't meant to be. But the truth is, I was just too scared to admit I'd made the wrong choice." Lucas was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "She cried a lot when I was little. I remember. She'd put me to bed, and I'd hear her in the other room. She tried to hide it, but I knew, I always knew." Guilt crashed through Ethan. "I'm sorry, God, Lucas, I'm so sorry. I used to think it was my fault, that I'd done something wrong, that maybe if I was better she wouldn't be sad." "No." Ethan grabbed Lucas's shoulder. "You were never the problem, you were the solution. You gave her a reason to keep going. You saved her. She's told me that. She's strong, stronger than anyone I know. She is, because she had to be, because I wasn't there." Ethan's eyes burned. "I can't change the past, can't take back the years I missed, but I need you to know. If I'd known about you, I would have come back. Maybe not right away. Maybe I would have tried to make the job work first, but eventually I would have chosen you, both of you, over everything." "How do I know that's true?" "Because I'm choosing you now. I sold my house, left my company, walked away from everything I built, not because I want credit, not because I think it erases my mistakes, but because you and your mom are the only things that matter, the only things that ever mattered." Lucas studied him, those familiar eyes, his eyes, searching for truth. "I want to believe you," Lucas said quietly, "but it's hard. Everything I thought I knew about my life was wrong, about who I am, where I come from, and I'm still figuring out how to deal with that. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. What if I never see you as my dad? What if we're just 2 people who share DNA?" The question hurt, but Ethan understood it. "Then that's what we'll be. I don't need a title. I don't need anything except the chance to know you, to be part of your life in whatever way you'll let me." Lucas nodded slowly. "Okay, I can work with that." It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was acceptance. And for now, that was enough. Naomi's journey was harder. She saw Ethan regularly now. He'd stop by for coffee, help with yard work, join her and Lucas for dinner once a week. It was domestic, normal, almost comfortable. But every time she looked at him, she remembered the pain, the loneliness, the nights she'd cried herself to sleep, wondering why she wasn't enough. Mrs. Green noticed her struggle. "You're holding on to that hurt like a shield, child." They sat on Mrs. Green's porch, drinking sweet tea. Lucas was at training. Ethan was at his rental house. It was just them. "I have to protect myself," Naomi said. "From what? He's already shown you who he is now. A man who made mistakes and is trying to fix them. What if he leaves again? What if he doesn't?" Mrs. Green took her hand. "Fear keeps you safe, baby, but it also keeps you lonely. Is that really what you want?" "I don't know what I want anymore." "Yes, you do. You're just scared to admit it." Naomi closed her eyes. "I want what we had before, when we were young and in love and stupid enough to think it would last forever. But I can't have that. Too much has happened. Too much time has passed. So build something new, something better, something that accounts for the pain and the years and the growth." "I don't know if I can." "Only one way to find out." That night, Naomi sat on her porch, alone with her thoughts, her fears, her hopes. She'd spent 19 years being strong, being independent, proving she didn't need anyone. But the truth was, she was tired. Tired of being alone. Tired of carrying everything by herself. Tired of pretending her heart hadn't come back to life the moment Ethan walked back into her world. She pulled out her phone, stared at his number. Then she called. He answered on the first ring. "Naomi, is everything okay? Can you come over?" "Now?" "Yes, please. I'll be there in 10 minutes. He arrived in 8, still in sweatpants and a t-shirt, hair messy, clearly worried. "What's wrong?" he asked at the door. "Nothing's wrong, She paused. "I need to talk to you." They sat in her living room, the same room where she'd yelled at him weeks ago, where everything had fallen apart. "I've been thinking," she said slowly, "about us, about what happened, about what might happen next." Ethan waited, patient, giving her space. "You hurt me, more than I've ever been hurt in my life, and part of me will always carry that, the memory of you leaving, the pain of raising Lucas alone, all of it. I know, and I'll spend the rest of my life making up for it if you let me. But here's the thing. I hurt you too, by not telling you about Lucas, by taking away 19 years you can never get back, by making a decision that wasn't just mine to make. You were protecting yourself and him, maybe, but it was still wrong, and I'm sorry. I'm genuinely sorry for that. I forgive you," Ethan said quietly. "I forgave you the moment I understood why you did it. Even though I took your son from you. You didn't take him, you raised him. You gave him life and love and everything he needed to become the incredible person he is. Yes, I wish I'd been there. God, I wish that every day. But I also know, if I'd been there as the selfish, ambitious kid I was at 23, I probably would have screwed it up. You gave him stability, security, a childhood free from a father who wasn't ready." Tears rolled down Naomi's cheeks. "You're giving me too much credit." "No, I'm giving you exactly the credit you deserve." He moved closer, not touching, just near. "You're an amazing mother, an amazing woman, and I've spent 19 years trying to find someone like you, trying to fill the hole you left, but no one could, because there's only one you, and I was stupid enough to let you go. Ethan, I love you, Naomi. I loved you then. I love you now, and I'll love you for the rest of my life whether you love me back or not, whether you give me another chance or not. That's not going to change." She looked at him, really looked at him, at the man he'd become, the humility in his eyes, the gentleness in his voice, the way he looked at her like she was his whole world. He wasn't the boy who'd left her. He was someone new, someone who'd learned, who'd grown, someone who'd come back. "I love you too," she whispered. "I never stopped. Even when I hated you, even when I tried to move on, I loved you through all of it." Ethan's breath caught. "You do?" "I do, and it terrifies me, because what if this doesn't work? What if we try and fail and I lose you all over again? Then we fail, and it'll hurt. But at least we'll have tried. At least we'll know we gave it everything we had." He took her hands. "I'm not promising perfection. I'm not promising it'll be easy. But I am promising I'll never leave you again, no matter what. No matter how hard things get, I'm here for you, for Lucas, for whatever comes next. One day at a time," she said softly. "That's all I can promise. One day at a time is perfect." He pulled her close. She let him, let herself sink into his arms, into the warmth she'd missed for 19 years. They didn't kiss, not yet. There was still too much to process, too much to heal, but they held each other, two broken people finding their way back together. And for the first time in years, Naomi felt whole. 3 months passed. Lucas completed his training, accepted his assignment. He'd be stationed at a base in Texas starting in the fall. The news hit Naomi hard. Her baby, her son, her whole world, leaving. But that was life. That was growth. Ethan was there when she cried about it, held her while she processed the reality of an empty nest. "He's ready," Ethan said gently. "You raised him to fly. Now you have to let him." "I know. It's just hard." "It is. But we'll visit and he'll come home, and he's not disappearing, just spreading his wings." The "we" in that sentence didn't escape her notice. They'd been dating officially for 2 months now. Nothing rushed, nothing forced, just dinners and movies and long walks where they talked about everything and nothing. It was different from before, quieter, more mature, but it was also deeper, richer, built on truth instead of youthful passion. Lucas approved, sort of. He was still adjusting to seeing his mother with someone, with his father, but he was trying. "As long as he treats you right," Lucas said one evening. "As long as he makes you happy." "He does. Then I guess I can deal with it." It wasn't enthusiastic support, but it was something. 6 months after the graduation ceremony, Ethan took Naomi to the airfield, the same place where everything had fallen apart, where they'd argued and cried and nearly destroyed each other. Now it was sunset. The sky was painted pink and orange. Jet sat silent on the tarmac. "Why are we here?" Naomi asked. "Because this is where it all changed, where I found you again, found Lucas, found myself." He turned to face her. "And I wanted to come back here, to replace the bad memories with good ones." "Ethan!" He pulled something from his pocket. Not a ring, not yet. They'd talked about that, about taking things slow, about not rushing into anything they weren't ready for. Instead, he held out his old Air Force pin, the same one he'd given her months ago. "This was my past," he said. "Everything I was before I made my biggest mistake. I gave it to you as a promise, a symbol that I wasn't running anymore. I remember. Now I want to give you something else." He pulled out a second pin, newer, shinier. "This is Lucas's, his official pilot wings. He gave them to me last week, said he wanted me to have them, as a father, as family." Naomi's eyes filled with tears. "He did? He did. And I want you to have them too, not to replace yours, but to add to them, because Lucas is our son, our past and our future. And I want us, you and me, to move forward together, carrying him with us, carrying everything we've built, everything we've survived." He took her hands. "Naomi Bennett, I'm not asking you to marry me, not yet, but I am asking you to build a life with me, a real life, not perfect, not easy, but honest, true, full of love and mistakes and growth and second chances." She looked at the pins, at his face, at the sunset behind him, at the future stretching out before them. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I want that." He smiled, that beautiful, genuine smile, and pulled her close. This time they kissed, soft, tender, full of promise. The kiss of two people who'd lost everything and found their way back. The kiss of forgiveness, of hope, of love that refused to die. When they pulled apart, Naomi was crying. Happy tears this time. "I can't believe this is real," she said. "It's real, we're real, and I'm never letting you go again." "Good, because I'm never letting you go either." They stood there as the sun set. Two people, one love, a lifetime ahead. And for the first time in 19 years, everything felt right. 1 year later, Lucas stood on the parade grounds in his formal dress uniform. He'd been promoted, recognized for excellence. He was making a name for himself in the Air Force. And his parents were there to see it, both of them. Naomi wore a simple blue dress. Her natural hair framed her face. She looked happy, peaceful, more beautiful than ever. Ethan stood beside her in a suit. Not expensive, not flashy, just nice. His arm wrapped around her waist. His eyes never left her except to watch their son. They'd gotten married 3 months ago. Small ceremony, just family and close friends. Mrs. Green had cried through the whole thing. Colonel Harris had walked Naomi down the aisle. It wasn't a fairy tale, but it was real, and that made it better. Lucas finished his ceremony. When he stepped down, he walked straight to them, hugged his mother first, tight and long. "I love you, Mum. I love you too, baby. I'm so proud of you." Then he turned to Ethan, extended his hand. Ethan took it, but Lucas pulled him into a hug instead. "Thanks for showing up, Dad." The word "Dad" hit Ethan like a freight train. He'd waited a year to hear it, had told himself he might never hear it, but here it was. Simple, honest, earned. Always, Ethan said, his voice thick. I'll always show up. They stood together, the three of them, a family that had been broken and remade, that had survived pain and secrets and time. Reporters stood nearby, but this time they were respectful. The story had changed. It wasn't a scandal anymore. It was redemption. One reporter called out, "Mr. Ward, how does it feel to watch your son succeed?" Ethan looked at Lucas, then at Naomi, then back at the reporter. "It feels like I finally landed," he said simply. "After 19 years of falling, I finally found solid ground. And you, Ms. Ward?" The reporter turned to Naomi. "Any words for people going through similar struggles?" Naomi thought for a moment. Then she said, "Love isn't destroyed by time, or mistakes, or pride. It survives. It waits. And when you're ready, when you're brave enough to face it, it welcomes you home." "Beautiful sentiment," the reporter said. "One last question. What's next for your family?" Lucas grinned. "More flying. For me, at least." Naomi laughed. "More quiet evenings. More family dinners. More normal. More everything," Ethan added softly, looking at his wife. "As long as we're together." The reporters moved on to other families, other stories, but Ethan, Naomi, and Lucas stayed where they were, watching jets fly overhead, listening to the roar of engines, feeling the sun on their faces. "Remember when we used to come here when I was little?" Lucas asked his mom. "You'd bring snacks and we'd watch the planes for hours." "I remember. You'd ask a million questions. And you'd answer every single one." Lucas smiled. "Best memories of my childhood." "Mine too." Ethan listened, wishing he'd been there, but also grateful for the chance he had now. A jet screamed across the sky above them. Beautiful, powerful, free. Naomi reached for Ethan's hand. He squeezed back. "We finally landed," he whispered to her. She looked up at him, eyes bright with tears and joy. "No, this time we're flying." And she was right, because love wasn't about staying grounded. It was about having someone to soar with, someone to catch you when you fell, someone to celebrate the heights and weather the storms. They'd been given a second chance, a rare gift, and they weren't going to waste it. As they walked away from the ceremony, Lucas between them talking excitedly about his next assignment, Ethan realized something. Success wasn't measured in dollars or achievements or fame. It was measured in moments like this, in the warmth of his wife's hand, in the sound of his son's laughter, in the simple, ordinary beauty of a family that refused to stay broken. He'd spent half his life building an empire, but his real legacy walked beside him. Flesh and blood, love and sacrifice, forgiveness and hope. Some journeys took 19 years, some mistakes took decades to fix, but when you finally arrived at the place you were meant to be, with the people you were meant to love, every painful step became worth it. The sun dipped lower, the sky turned gold, and three people, once lost, now found, walked toward their future together. Not perfect, not without scars, but whole, finally, beautifully whole. 2 years later, on a warm summer evening, Ethan sat on his porch. Not the mansion in California, not the hotel suite, just a simple house with a porch swing and a view of the airfield. Naomi sat beside him, her head on his shoulder. Inside, they heard laughter. Lucas was visiting with his girlfriend, a smart, funny woman he'd met at his base. Mrs. Green was there too, teaching the girl how to make her famous sweet tea. "Can you believe this is our life?" Naomi asked quietly. "Sometimes I wake up and think I'm dreaming." "Me too." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sunset, listening to the sounds of family inside. "Do you ever regret it?" Ethan asked. "Everything that happened? The pain? The years apart?" Naomi thought about it, really thought about it. "No," she said finally. "I regret the hurt, the loneliness, the tears, but I don't regret the journey, because it led us here, to this porch, to this family, to this life, even though it took 19 years, especially because it took 19 years. We needed that time, to grow, to learn, to become the people who could actually make this work." She lifted her head to look at him. "We weren't ready before, but we're ready now." He kissed her softly. "I love you. I love you too." Lucas appeared in the doorway. "Mom, Rachel wants to know if you can teach her your biscuit recipe." Naomi laughed. "Coming." She went inside, her voice mixing with the others. Happy. Home. Ethan stayed on the porch for a moment longer, looking up at the sky, at the stars beginning to appear. He thought about the young man he'd been, ambitious, selfish, convinced that success meant wealth and fame. He'd been so wrong. Real success was this: love, family, connection, purpose. Everything he'd been searching for had been right here all along, in a small town, in a modest house, in the arms of a woman who'd never stopped believing in him, even when he'd stopped believing in himself. "Dad," Lucas called. "You coming? Rachel's about to embarrass herself trying to make biscuits and you don't want to miss it, Dad." He still wasn't used to hearing it, still made his heart clench every time. "Coming," he called back. He walked inside, into the warmth, into the noise, into the beautiful, messy, perfect chaos of family. And as he wrapped his arms around Naomi in the kitchen, as Lucas told a terrible joke that made everyone groan, as Mrs. Green scolded them all for making a mess, Ethan knew. He was finally home, not just in a place but in a life, a love, a family. After 19 years of falling, he'd finally landed, and it was more beautiful than he'd ever imagined. The end.